Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, we continue our discussion on how the drought is affecting crops. Ben gives some tips on technology you can use to track the drought patterns. Potash deficiency is showing up in fields from the drought. Lynn gives tips on how to manage it. Early wheatlands are being harvested. Stay tuned for some great yield results.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Lynn, and Turk. Lots to discuss, lots of things going out there, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress. Let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, so kind of feels like a lot of our areas are going through the big D. And we're not talking about Dallas or divorce, so drought is a lot of everybody's conversations that they're going through right now. So I just kind of wanted to talk or hit just a little bit on corn, because beans, you know, we all know that the August rains, the early September rains really are the heavy carriers when it comes to bean yield setup. But corn right now, guys are kind of getting a little bit nervous on. We're starting to see certain areas curl up on the lighter soil types. They're curled up in the morning at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're curled all the way through, and then they catch a breath or a little bit of a relaxation overnight because the temperatures are dropping. But I kind of wanted to talk on where we're at and what the corn looks like. So from a 10 to 12 inch plant, you know, you're looking at that anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 inches. You're in that V4, V5, V6 time frame. The corn plant is taking up 0.15 to 0.2 inches per day, and that turns out to be about an inch, 1.4 inches per week. We are kind of past that in a lot of our areas. Some of the plots that got planted later are still in that time frame, and the majority of the roots are in the top 18 inches of the profile in that instance. Now, when we move to a 8-leaf stage towards a tassel, we are taking up 0.32 inches per day, which is equal to about 2.4 inches per week. So, and that 2.4 inches per week, it'll vary based off of humidity and wind speed and all those things. And humidity's pretty low. Wind speed, we've had some pretty decent windy days the past couple, 3-4 days here. So that respiration and that water pulling will happen more quickly when you're not in very humid conditions. So we're looking at 2.24 inches per week is what we're taking up. And when you overlay that compared to how many inches are in the 6 to 30 inch range, I have a map from the Iowa Mesonet from Friday morning here. Sitting here in southeast Iowa, we have 5.33 inches of available plant moisture in that 6 to 30 inch range. So if you do the math, you know, we have potentially, with that taller corn type, we have potentially, 2.5, 3 weeks worth of moisture if we're truly extracting all of that.
But the roots will go down a little farther, won't they?
Correct, and that's where, I guess I didn't read that off. We're running a pretty consistent, we were talking 18 inches at that V4, V5, V6 time frame, and we change from 18 inches to 4 feet in that V8 to VT time frame.
Yeah, when we get that rapid growth above ground, we're also getting the rapid development below ground as well.
And if some of you aren't familiar with what the system that Ben's referring to, it was set up by Elwin Taylor to try to figure out how much gas is in the tank, how much rain, how much water is in the soil. And his goal back then when he set up all these stations across the state of Iowa was, knowing how much gas is in the tank, how much water we got down in the surface will allow us to figure out what the yield potential is and how far we can go. And then because how this goes with the markets, the markets start going crazy when it gets dry. And then you, as a farmer, you say, well, I don't know if I should sell some. And then, of course, when it rains, it crashes. And his goal was to be able to predict what the yield was going to be based on how much gas was in the tank. And the farmer would be able to take advantage of the high markets before they crash. And it's a really good system. I know we paid for the location here in West Point, and I thought, what a wonderful system to have to let farmers know what's going on. So do you have a website that farmers can go to look at for their local area based on, it's in Iowa. I don't know if there's any ones outside of Iowa, but it's an I remember when they put the sensors in. It's a pretty elaborate, elite system.
Yeah, so each state has their own Merschman. Whether or not they are pulling the exact data like this, I'm not exactly sure, but each state has their own data center. If you Google Iowa Mesonet, and then you go to ag weather data, in the top left-hand corner there's a little tractor emblem, and basically it'll pull up a chart. It'll give you the temperatures, I think the first thing, like up to the minute temperature, and then you'll go in a top right-hand corner, you'll click on a slide bar, and you'll look for the 6 to 30 inch subsoil moisture in inches. So
how far down do they go with the moisture sensors?
The moisture sensors go down 50 inches, but this is talking about the plant available water and trying to be able to tie back to, okay, how much moisture. When they go to the 50, it's on a percentage basis, so it's kind of hard to correlate how many inches that is. The 6 to 30 inch depth with an inch monitoring lets you know, okay, my corn's taking up about this much. How much time do I have before things, go towards closer to a permanent wilting point. But I also had a couple other charts on here, or a couple different years. I could go back as far as 2021 for the 6 to 30 inch available moisture, and you can just take a look, and I'll have Alex post these up in order when you're looking from 2023 of where we're at. Last year at this time we had 8.09 inches of moisture, but you remember at this time last year there were some areas further west of us that were starting to start using the D word a lot more, and even in northeast Iowa there were some guys that were using the D word a lot more often. So like if you look at last year, we have a grower, Jeff Reintz, is in the Shell Rock area. He's 25 minutes away from Nashua. He was talking about how surprisingly good the corn and soybean crop was. Well, he was at 4.3 inches of available moisture in the top 30 inches of his slide deck at that point in time. So it's not time to completely pull away from the crop. We want to continue to spend money on the crop. We want to continue to monitor things and make common sense decisions, because we're not at a point yet where we need to abandon the crop. And if you go back to 2021, the western half of Iowa was also talking about the D word quite a bit, and we were at 7.54 inches of available moisture at that point. The western portion of Iowa is at 4.15, 6.24. There's kind of all over the board there as well. So a good place to kind of compare and know where some of the dry areas have been the past 3 years. If you really wanted to dig into it, you could look at the drought map, the drought monitor. You can look at the months and kind of correlate back with those available moisture percentages as well.
So summary is, situation's critical, but it's not a disaster yet. In other words, we should be nervous, but we still have good yield potential yet. If we got to get some rain though.
Yep, and I think if the 10-day forecast on July 4th looks completely dry and really hot, and there's nothing in sight, then we got some reason to start thinking some different directions on corn.
There's a couple things going on. Anecdotally, we're entering county fair seasons, and it seems like everyone's county fair is always the spurn for rain. And then, what would we say for us, the last 5 years, we have always had a moment of what I would call, our moisture situation goes flatline. But every year we go back to average. We have average rainfall. So this year we've just moved the line over from August, July, September, or July, August, September timeframe to a little bit earlier. But if history repeats itself, we have always gotten our average rainfall. Hopefully it comes during that time frame. Hopefully it doesn't happen after after the crops are out and we have a really wet late fall and winter. But historical averages have told us we always get our average rainfall in a year. So I'm with you. It's not time to panic yet. You can be concerned, but just try to stay inside and stay cool, and don't go driving around looking at your crops for another week or so.
El Nino years typically bring moisture to the Midwest.
My grandfather, Grandpa Mettenberg, always said, Joe, it always rains right before it's too late. So we're not quite to the too late yet, so we're going to get rain.
Absolutely.
Wash your car, do whatever it is, plan a picnic, do something that in the history of your family has always made it rain, so we'll all work on it together, and of course say a prayer, right?
Right.
The markets definitely are thinking drought and looking at what is going on. I mean, the forecast is basically the market right now, and the the Board of Trade thinks that the drought is real and that it's taken some yield off of this corn, especially. And then the drought monitor also came out this week, and 57% of the corn and 51% of the soybeans are in drought area. And the drought map actually did increase this year, the coverage area. So I mean, everything for what the trade's looking at is saying we need higher prices. Now, this is an El Nino year, and we know that we're probably going to be getting some moisture at some point here. So this is a really good opportunity to catch up if you need to catch up on some pricing, because we've went up like a dollar, over $1.15 in the last 5 days on soybeans, and corn's up over $1.
This past week, we've had a lot of seed growers sell some beans above $14. So you're doing exactly what you said, Turk. I might have missed the opportunity early, but I got some old crop. I'm going to take advantage of it, and that's smart business.
And it's not too late to start, or too early to start thinking about this new crop as well, and the opportunities that maybe you've left. And if you don't like if you're worried about it, you can always buy a call or do something if you want to protect yourself for higher prices. But as we know, the job of the market is to provide us opportunities to price, and trade's doing a good job of doing that right now, I believe.
Absolutely. Lynn, we've been getting some phone calls related to soil moisture and lack thereof it. What have we seen this week? What have you been taking phone calls on?
Yeah, so this week it seems to be the topic of conversation on soybean is this potash deficiency is showing up in fields. So we could throw some pictures up of what that looks like for the folks at home that maybe haven't seen it before. But it definitely is one of those that are no-till, compacted areas, just where we're not getting that mass flow and the root interception with the K in the soil there to get it to the plant. Something that, I typically don't get too concerned about. It's one of those that we just can't go in and foliar apply enough K to snap the plant out of it. We just need rain and moisture to help that mass flow, get that uptake of K into the plant and move forward on that. Some discussions with some growers is how do we manage that on soybeans. Compaction, like I said, is number one. Try to get rid of compaction. There's discussions on some guys trying to go to a strip till style on their beans, try to get that P and K right underneath the plant, give it the easiest access to that. That seems to be a decent idea. In practice, will that actually come to fruition? It's something that we'll have to take a look at, because at the end of the day, we need moisture to bring that K into the plant. If it's available and it's there, the plant will use it, but if we can't get it into an available form and up into the plant, then it's a good practice, but theory just didn't work out. So definitely some options that guys are looking at management-wise to changing up. Typically in years that we've seen some potash deficiency early, hasn't really reflected into the yield side of stuff too bad. We might see particular varieties, maybe they'll have a two-pod or a two-bean pod when we get into that stress period, but a lot of times, we catch the rain, we get out of it, and then the August and September rains are definitely more helpful in the yield component. But would I be amiss to say that they're probably leaving something on the table because the plant is in a stress period, it doesn't have everything that it needs? Absolutely. And then as we know with anything, any plant, corn, soybeans, if we have a nutrient deficiency, we're probably in a situation where the plant is compromised, so now we need to look out for any disease that might be vectored in or show up. That's another one. Anecdotally, kind of see in the years like this, Septoria will kind of sneak in there, and once we get rain, and we'll kind of move out of the potash deficiency and kind of into the season of Septoria. So visited with an individual this week on some fungicide applications on soybeans related to Septoria. So that's going to be one, once we turn the spigot back on, I'm going to be keeping a pretty close eye out on I'm looking for that.
Right. And we've had some pretty photogenic plants this week. Pictures of what potash deficiency looks like. On our major crops, corn and soybeans, it's pretty easy to find the potash deficiency. It's going to happen because it's immobile in the plant, it's going to happen on the lower leaves first and work its way up the plant. It's going to have yellow around the margins. I had a customer that was questioning as well, it's not yellow, it's brown. Well, it was probably yellow a week ago.
Correct.
And that has since we haven't had any flush of moisture at that point, the yellow will turn to brown. But it's basically yellowing around the leaf margins, and I have, like you said, we have pictures to throw up of potash deficiency in soybeans, and then I took some pictures this morning of just a little bit of potash deficiency in corn, and this corn that we're taking a picture of, it does have more than it needs of potash underneath it in a row on a strip till situation. So we know that plant has enough potash where it needs it. It's just it can't get the moisture to pull that product into the plant. So
the biggest concern that I have when we come into or what growers call is, when they're doing their 55 mile an hour driving down the road, they just assume that oh my goodness, I see yellow, I've got sudden death already setting in and the world's coming to an end. Go out, take a look at it, because it definitely we're definitely not getting sudden death in the fields. It's potash deficiency, and like I said, if we get some rain, we'll grow out of it. Do we leave just a little bit on the table for yield? Absolutely. Is it going to be heinous? Absolutely not. And most likely, you're probably just seeing it in your stressed acre, either stressed acre or compaction. Potentially something early in the season where it had a lot of water setting on it, and now we've kind of crusted off, and just all around not good parts of the field. But
terrace tops,
correct.
tree lines.
Yep.
Areas where moisture is definitely at a deficit.
And then the second one that I had just to touch base on as we get dry, some conversations with some growers out to the east. They're making the recommendation that don't mow the ditches and don't mow the waterways, because spider mites are starting to show up over there, and we want to give them an opportunity to stay exactly where they're at. So the ditch is where they belong. I'm a pheasant hunter, so I don't mind people not mowing their ditches as well. It seems like the birds like to go hide out there. In Iowa, we have a pretty good system of actually having greater ditches. Where I'm from in Missouri, those don't exist. So keep your ditches a little weedy. Give the spider mites and aphids a home here, because if you get rid of that, they're going to go to green. And right now, green is in the field. So
absolutely.
So it's not all doom and gloom this wheat crop. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we've had some more reports of wheat coming off. Our medium early lines, like the Maddie and the Julie, are doing very well in Tennessee, Southern Illinois, Kentucky. We had a report and a video sent in to us from Stewart Farms in Paris, Tennessee, where he was seeing some of the highest numbers he's ever seen, 145 to 151 or 2 or 3. I have to go back and look at the video to know for sure, but it was the highest yields he's ever seen on the monitor. That field was rolling 128 or 128 field average or something like that. So the conditions were correct. I'm hoping that trend has a tendency to track its way north. I think they had a little bit more moisture earlier on in the season than we did, but it was so far it's been a good wheat year for yield, and like I said, we got some pretty happy customers.
Yeah, low level disease, cooler temperatures, drier. I mean, we should see some good wheat yields everywhere. I think farmers are going to be real happy with their wheat yields. Hopefully get a little moisture and make that double crop work for them, and that could be their most profitable crop this year right now.
Would you say that tends to lead to pretty good quality wheat as well? So our seed production coming up should be really, really good stuff for our growers.
Last year was some of the best quality wheat we had, and I think this year we could match it or exceed it. And supplies are going to be good. You don't have to worry. We'll have plenty of supply.
That's absolutely correct. The only other thing that I had on my end is we do have soybeans flowering from the guys that got the stuff planted in April, and even some of the stuff planted in May here in our test plot, our May 3rd planted soybean test plot. We have a few flowers showing up on the earliest varieties, but Roundup label or the glyphosate label allows you to spray through R2. So up until the point where you start seeing 3/16 of an inch pods on the top 4 nodes of the plant. Liberty has a cutoff of basically when you see that first bloom. So R1, you don't want to be spraying Liberty anymore. After that point, you're going to start knocking pods off. So we would definitely want to be thinking about that. You know, a lot of guys were trying to wait till beans got closer to canopy because it was dry, or if you have any rescues, Liberty's not one that I'm going in with and spraying. And for all of our growers that use Enlist, we have up to R3 or through the R2 label, or through the R2 time frame, and so that would match the Roundup. So if you have late spraying that you're working on soybeans, or if you have some escapes and you want to go back and nip them, I'm using Roundup, and hopefully the weeds aren't too big. I'm using Roundup and Enlist 1.
Okay.
So,
and get out and scout. This past week, driving around, getting stuff kind of caught back up after our meetings that we've had. The weeds are definitely using the heat just as much as the crop is. The velvet leaf, the pig weeds, the horse weeds have definitely started off, Monday, 1 inch, 2 inches, and now are peaking up and outrunning the soybeans. So be proactive on that application.
And volunteer corn sucks a lot of moisture out of your soybean fields, so keep that in mind too.
yep.
Anything else? Well, I missed a couple episodes here, so I'm going to try to make up for it with a corny joke. So I know right now everybody's a little bit seeing all this changes going on and whatnot. So I thought I'd give you a little philosophy about change, okay? Then get into my corny jokes, okay? It's always been said that change is inevitable, except from a vending machine, okay?
Okay, yeah.
We can all agree upon that. All right, next one. What do you call 2 dogs breathing heavily? Now with those hot temperatures, what do you call 2 dogs breathing heavily? A pair of pants. Pair of pants. Okay. The last one, we always enjoy our bar jokes, So, here's a bar joke for you. $5 bill walks into a bar. Bartender looks it over and says, "Get out. We don't serve your type here. This is a singles bar." Turk, I don't like that expression there. Well, anyhow, we made it through. Maybe I need to take the next 2 weeks off too. Thanks for watching today. We hope that your family is healthy and safe. We hope that you get rain over this weekend, a little bit in the forecast. We appreciate your business this past year, and we look forward to working with you for 2024. Thank you and take care.